Now, anti-riot police have been out in force tonight outside a mosque being built in Harrow in northwest London, after a group called Stop Islamisation of Europe said it was organising a demonstration there. In the event, a handful of anti-Islam protesters who turned up were vastly outnumbered by an estimated 1,000 or so counter-demonstrators. According to the protest organisation's website, one of the organisers, Stephen Gash, was arrested. But earlier in the evening I spoke to him and asked him why they intended to demonstrate outside this particular mosque.
We're demonstrating against this outside this particular mosque because it is a giant edifice blotting one of our streets. Only recently the Walthamstow Mosque was reported as being a radical mosque for the past 20 years, and from that mosque 3 people have been sent to prison for terrorist attacks or planned terrorist attacks on England.
Let me be clear then, do you object to the building of any mosques in the UK?
Yes, until they sort out this so-called radicalisation of existing mosques, which have been reported to be at least 60% across the whole of England. We don't want any more mosques built in England or anywhere else in Europe for that matter.
OK, let's be clear then. Any British citizen who happens to profess Islam as his religion is not entitled to have a place of worship?
Not until they sort out their existing places of so-called worship where they preach to Muslims. Muslims go and make war on the infidels who dwell around you. That's the kind of thing that's going to be preached in this mosque when it's completed. And we're not having it anymore, and we want all mosque building stopped, and we want the existing mosques made into proper places of worship, not houses of hate.
When you say we, who exactly are you referring to?
Well, we've got 3,000 members in our organisation alone. We've got support from Hindus in India, Christians in Indonesia, Copts in Egypt, who are being persecuted in a genocidal fashion, all unreported by the Western media. And we're here to make a voice for them, and we're supporting them, and we're supporting the Israelis and Jews throughout the world who are fleeing countries like France because of Islamic persecution perpetrated against them.
Would you describe yourself as somebody who hates Muslims?
I would say that I don't regard that there's any moderate Muslim in the world, and I certainly do hate Islam, as I hate Nazism and communism and all forms of totalitarianism.
The counter-demonstrators sprinted towards them in their hundreds. As the police lined up to push the counter-demonstrators back towards the car park, further up the road, around 20 protesters were surrounded by another police unit, apparently for their own safety.
There's no group, none of us are involved in any political group at all. In fact, I'm a Tory. Right, I'm a Tory. Right, pardon? We come here because this is England. We should be able to demonstrate.
Local Muslims have been expecting a major demonstration here today. A demonstration conceived by a group called Stop Islamisation of Europe. Their main organiser was seemingly the only member of the group to get anywhere near the target of today's planned protest, the new mosque in Harrow. A symbol, according to this self-professed Islamophobe, not of integration, but of triumphalism.
So these so-called moderate Muslims want Sharia in this country to dominate you, to dominate me. We're not going to live under fear by Sharia.
The new mosque is not yet complete. Within the ageing corrugated walls of the older mosque earlier today, where politicians and police gathered, talk about the expected protest had dominated prayers.
We need to say to the world, especially those who are narrow-minded and bigoted, the fascists and the narrow-minded neo-Nazis, that you can scream and shout for as long as you like, but you will not derail our principles, and you will not even shake an iota of what we stand for.
The anticipated screaming and shouting against the mosque never happened today, but the atmosphere here this evening has become increasingly volatile. And the fact that more than 1,000 counter-demonstrators, mostly young Muslim men, saw fit to turn up today, despite pleas from the mosque, says much about how recent right-wing protests have engendered fear in this community.
The focus of this demonstration is this: Harrow's newly built central mosque. Stop the Islamification of Europe, say no more of these, should be built in Britain. They'd claimed 200 would come. In the end, it was just a handful. Waiting for them, 1,000 young Muslims and anti-fascist campaigners.
Second World War, you lot were fighting fascism. How could you be allowing a fascist party to exist in the UK today? Am I right?
We were just here just to protect the mosque, protect our beliefs and ideas, and that's it.
like I say, a select minority have
the
gone a bit OTT. But like I say, that is just a minority. We've just been here relaxing, making friends, really.
Mosque elders had preached calm, but their plea went unheeded. The appearance of a few far-right protesters lighting the racial touch paper. Outnumbered and under a hail of rocks, the protesters were penned in by police for their own safety. The Met defending its operation.
Yes, can you hear me? The behaviour this afternoon has been unacceptable by some people. It's not going to be tolerated, and we've always said that lawful protests will be facilitated. However, unlawful and criminal behaviour will not be tolerated by the police. And now, obviously, this could come to a stage now where we will be deploying tactics to make sure we have no further violence.
Last weekend, 90 people were arrested during clashes in Birmingham between the English Defence League and anti-fascist groups. In Harrow, there was anger that the violence on both sides had come from outside the area.
It is very disappointing. It's particularly disappointing that people come from mostly outside the borough to foment trouble. What's more encouraging is that the actual mosque has been very helpful in terms of trying to avoid it. What's particularly sad is that many of the people who turned up haven't listened to the mosque and have in fact caused trouble, even though the number of people coming from the right wing from the outside have been very limited.
The far-right's decision to march during Ramadan and on Islam's holy day was designed to inflame. The anti-mosque marchers were eventually led away. As a hard core of young Muslims turned their anger towards police, the clashes continued. Further arrests are expected in the coming days as officers trawl CCTV.